What up, database and visitors? It's Data007 here, and it's Friday night, and just I'm doing the DuckTales thing tomorrow, so don't worry. So tonight all right. So recently Luna has made some talk about stories on his live stream. Well, that got me thinking. There's some stories that I can kind of put in a compilation live, because the videos, if I made them singular videos, they wouldn't have really enough story to tell or not a whole lot of substance. And so yeah, I think I think this could be a good way to do, at least have some that I don't really have, that are just small and not having a lot of stories up to it. So give me a sec. What's a good story? I do have I do have one story of when my front driver's side tire just popped off and all that. All right, so let's get into the story. This happened a few months ago. Just my car at the time. Let's just say this. Oh, it was literally a piece of crap at the time. So we finally got all these problems worked out. I don't know exactly how this happened, but apparently when someone was using, was changing my tires, they didn't put the nuts back on, tight and properly. So for a while, it feels fine, but then all of a sudden, I start feeling like that that sound, and like it feels rough just doing it. So I'm on my way to work one day. By the time I get on the freeway to go to work, okay, and I end up saying, yeah, something's definitely not right. So I'm driving to like the local shop that my family goes to um, to do it. But as I'm just around the corner from there, guess what? The old tire pops off. One of the studs broke, and so basically, I ended up calling my mom. Mom, I'm all right. So I ended up, like a tow truck from the little business came around, like, and helped me. And I ended up missing work that day, but yeah. Yeah, so after that, I just kind of went about my day. It was nice to have a day off, but yeah. Uh, oh, and here's another good story about. It was about fourth grade, I believe. This has to do with me and Pitt. It's so basically at the time we were studying the novel Treasure Island for way longer than I thought we were. We just kind of spent the whole year having that as a main subject matter. But so there's a point where, and also this is really stupid, but we ended up, like having some small costumes thing, and like she would record us. Yeah, no creepy thing intended. Really, it was just harmless. Anyhow, so the first take me and Matthew do was like, now keep in mind we were at a table doing it. Everyone else was working in class, but let's just say this. All right, so as it starts rolling, I try to do. All right, so I do my line, and then, but he's having a little bit of trouble, and then he's looking around, and then and then everybody's watching him, and apparently that just made him uncomfortable, and he's like, hey, start, start, hey, go back to work, focus on your work, and one kid was like, think pirate, and so that one pretty much ended up being a failure. That I'm pretty sure my teacher still has that tape to this day, but every time he watched it, he couldn't help but just laugh at himself. Uh, yeah, and so that was the end of that take. The next one we did was out at a point in the hall, but man, man, he he just flipped out, you know. While we're filming too. Another thing, another story involving Pitt. This I'm not. I don't remember if I told this story or not. If I have, I apologize, but if I haven't, well, here's a new story. Basically, in first grade, all right. So it was one of the early days. We were out at recess, and there was this one kid. Let's just give him a name. Let's just call him Jacob. So now let me just tell you one thing. Jacob was probably the tallest out of, like the first graders, and my gosh, like, I mean, despite, like him being taller, like he could get set off real easy. Well, easy. And this was a special ed unit, so, and trust me, when I'm saying that I'm not trying to really pick on or really offend. In fact, I was there myself, and I'm just telling stories. Stories kind of like from my perspective. But anyhow, that's off topic. But so we're outside, and then there's like those little like arches or whatever that are like a ladder you could probably climb upside down, or like on top or whatever. Well, basically, Jacob was he, like just hanging out upside down, like from his legs, like hooked around, like the bars, whatnot. We've all done that. But then his shirt kind of like comes, like most of the way down because, well, he's hanging upside down. He's hanging upside down. But then Pitt thought it would be funny to literally just go up, and he just started pulling on his shirt, and just pulled it, and it came straight off. He got scolded, and that was pretty much the end of that story. And then you have, and actually, and there's another story I have that, again, I'm not so sure if I told this one, but if I have, again, I apologize. There was this, all right, with that same kid, Jacob. Now, remember I said he could get set up pretty easy? Well, there's this other kid, let's just call him Taylor. Now, Taylor had an extremely, I mean, he loved picking up Jacob. I mean, he would go shove him whenever he could. And one time, it really went too far. Basically, we were sitting down, just doing our work, and then so Taylor gets up out of his seat and he walks over to Jacob's desk and then just pushes him straight out of his chair. He falls onto the floor, hits his head on the desk leg right next to it. He starts crying. And oh boy, I'm surprised he didn't get sent to the principal's office. But anyhow, that was the end of that. All right. And this one, again, this is another one. Yeah, I think I've told this one, so I'm gonna pass on it. And so, alright, so what's another good story? Oh, yeah. So, I think I've told this one, but at the same time I haven't. I probably mentioned it in another video. But back in 5th grade, this was one of the first times we actually had girls in our special ed class. We had one who was... I'm just getting this out right now. Morganland's made one of his first videos on his channel, like, story, like, talking about, like, him and Pitt, you know, like... And I've told the story of how, like, Pitt jabbed Morganland's in the back with a pine cone, but I didn't explain why. He explained why, but I'm just saying, you can... I'll probably link it down in the description if I can remember, but basically, this first girl was like, let's just say this, she was like kind of a crush interest for Morganland's and also for Pitt, which I had no idea about. In fact, that whole time I thought they were just fighting like they were just bitter enemies. Because there was a point when that was the case, but that's why, like, it ended up with that whole pinecone jabbing situation happened. But getting off topic, and also the first girl was like the same one from that, was the same girl that flipped the table in that one story. But anyhow, the main focus is on the second one. Now, let me just get this straight. Right. Right. Now, for those who don't know, as I described in one video, she would... Let's just say this. Take Sally Draper from Mad Men, if you've seen that. And, and mix them with Melman from Madagascar, and that's what she was pretty much like. Like this one particular one I didn't go into too much detail about. But she... Like, there were times when, she would just get up all of a sudden. So then just, like, grab all her stuff and try to leave. The teacher would block the door. And I think I told this one, but I'm honestly not sure, but I think I do a little more detail. And then, like, usually this would happen once, but one time she actually tried it 4 times. The teacher would always block the door, and she would just say some of the dumbest crap that had nothing to do with the situation. This one, and... and she'd be like, I'm leaving. Do you know what it's like for a kid not to see your own grandparents? What does that got to do with the situation? But I can tell you, trust me, in that special ed unit, just, I didn't really I hated being in there. But anything that got us, kept us from doing our work for just a little bit, even if it was just for a minute or two, to it was entertaining. And like, we came up with like this gesture of just doing this, just pretending to eat popcorn and stuff like that, like we're enjoying the show. But you know what? She would never win against the teachers. All right. Let's see what's another good story. Good story. Oh yeah, here's a good one. Basically, around this was fourth grade. All right, this is back in fourth grade, and again back in that unit, I was. So basically, there was this kid there. Let's just call him Chad. Now Chad is. Let me get this straight. This kid, like, he was hardly ever there, and when he was there, he didn't want to be there, so he's asked, like, he's like, can you call my mom? And then, like, they would tell, him no, and then he would just go ape crap and start bawling, but this but this particular time was not one of those times. In fact, this was a completely different thing. We used to have this system in there where basically we had these little slots with our names on it, and it had like however many green cards. But if you misbehaved or did something, like they would flip one card to red, which honestly, it's the stupidest system ever made. Trust me. Trust me. But, he ended up doing it. And so he ended up doing something, of course, like that was against the rules. And then, so the teacher goes to flip the card, and he just has a complete meltdown about it. I mean, he keeps yelling, "Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me? Why do you hate me?" And just stuff like that. And stuff like that. It's just like, it usually ended with him, with him like, just, but there was this one particular time when he was starting to be out of the class a little bit more, like being there for most of the day, but he, but all of a sudden he comes back in some for some like unexpectedly, and like he's kind of crying, and and this was one of the very, very few times I've ever seen this dude cry. And apparently what happened was like apparently some kids in the class were making some allegations against him, like he was on drugs or has drugs, parents doing drugs. I don't remember what the situation was. And he was also saying that he had guns and stuff like that. Yeah, stuff like that, which I don't even know if any of that crap was true, but it was really none of my business. But this wasn't the most exciting thing. But then a thing comes over the loudspeaker and saying, like some people get down to like the classroom. Apparently that was where he was. He's like, I need to go back and see what, and then he just jumps out of his chair and he's like, I gotta go back and see what's going on. And like the teacher just told him to sit down, but yeah. And all right, so another story from, it came from, actually this was second grade. So we'd be out of class in the morning and we go to another classroom for, like just like part of the morning, and then there was one part where some of us would go for like some of the day until lunch. But so just Pitt and some other people were in a different. We didn't all go to the same place though, and just now I only go off of what like people, what I heard, and like what Pitt told me about this, because I was not there when it happened. So basically my time was like usual, but when we get back, like from the morning thing, one of the teachers that was watching them there, and then they ask how his behavior was, and here's the thing. Pitt will even tell you, I won't let him forget this. I don't know why the story cracks me up sometimes, but it just does for whatever reason. So basically they say she said something the first, all right, so he basically said, Matt, Pitt was being loud, and she said something along those lines of the first part. And he's like, and playing with the teddy bears, because I did notice, like I've seen past there, walking past there, we saw there were like some teddy bears on the shelves. No big deal, but oh my gosh. And I asked him later what he was doing. I don't know how much later. So basically, he said he was doing this. Like, he had on his lap or something. He's going like, dee, 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 dee. I don't know why, but and he was making the kids laugh, and of course, teachers just weren't having it. Again, I never let him forget this one, even though I wasn't there, but it's just ridiculous. Speaking of, yeah, I'll save that particular story for another time. So I'm just trying to think of another story. All right, there was this one particular time I'd always get in trouble for this. This was back in kindergarten. Yeah, we're going back this far. So basically, in some schools, the kindergarten rooms have bathrooms in them, which doesn't, I don't know. I think it's just for safety's sake or whatnot. But there were just times I would, like just go in there, and I'd go to the toilet and just like purposefully just, and this is kind of blah, but there were times I would just purposefully miss the toilet. And like just me being a little kid. And sometimes I would just get get toilet paper and just string it all around. But the thing was, the teacher always found out about it, which I personally did not understand. How did somebody tell her? Or did she just figure it was me because every time I go in there it would happen? But in a similar sense, you're on to the next one. I would be sent at certain parts of the day. I would, like be sent to like this one room, like to do some work or whatever. And there was like, it was just basically like a room full of, like basically like tables with some teachers helping students, and like there was a cubicle for testing there, or what, or whatnot. Or whatnot. But there was this one thing I would always do. I basically had this habit of, like, well, when this particular one, when she wasn't working, or teacher, she wasn't working, I would, like just take stuff off, like little shelves back there, and just put them on the floor. And I remember she like she confronted me about this one time, saying, like, don't do it, because I always find tape on the floor. They won't force, so don't do it. But did I listen? Heck no. No, I did not. And also in kindergarten, I had a tendency just to do some dumb things, Like, I believe it was time to go home or something. Something along those lines. I think it was. Basically, there was like this little project that they have us make. I didn't really participate, really, but basically it was on a plate, and so basically I just went over to the kid in line, and I went like this, just like went, just launched it out of the hand, and then it went like literally across the room, and then just landed there. And I know that's kind of a jerk move, but like I can tell you, when I was a little kid, I tended not to listen, and I was always getting in trouble, even though I promised not to do it again. I would always get in trouble, like no other. Okay, we're coming up on, like 30 minutes here, and that's pretty much all I can think of right now. So, hope you all enjoyed this. I'll see you out later. Peace out.